Apartheid, where did it come from? My interest in this video is not economics, politics, or religion. I've heard it repeatedly said that apartheid is alive in South Africa, America, Australia, and other countries of the world. In this introductory presentation, in a series of 3, I will limit myself to just the root of apartheid. This might be sensitive to some hearers. Previously, in the not-so-distant past and hard-to-forget history of South Africa, Afrikaner nationalists believed in the superiority of the Afrikaner nation. They believed that their identity was God-given. They feared that the Afrikaners' very existence was threatened by the mass of Africans that confronted them in South Africa, that the Afrikaner nation would be swamped and overcome if there was a continued mixing of races. Afrikaner nationalist historians explain apartheid in 1948 as the consolidation of these beliefs through a range of laws that were passed to prevent the mixing of the races and to preserve this God-given Afrikaner identity. When we hear the word apartheid, we sometimes think of Nelson Mandela's triumphs, his Nobel Peace Prize, and long struggle to transform South Africa into a democracy. However, its history is worth recollecting for illustrative purposes only, with no vilification intended. This modern system of legalized racial and tribal segregation dominated South Africa from 1948 to the early 1990s. What is it that determined the course of white supremacy in 20th century South Africa? A closer look is shocking. What is it that will make a person who bleeds as the next person, feels love and pain as the next person, who is of the same intrinsic value and worth as the next person, assume that he is superior by far in every aspect? This question sparked a brief journey that made me realize that there is a lot more than what meets the eye. When you trace the historical processes that led to apartheid rule and its forms of social, economic, and political control, you will identify global ideologies rooted in social Darwinism and eugenics that influenced apartheid laws and mindset and mentalities. I was shocked. A certain group of people began to think they were superior and therefore acted in line with that belief. The aphorism, "As a man thinketh in his heart, so is he," not only embraces the whole of man's being, but is so comprehensive as to reach out to every condition and circumstance of his life. A man is literally what he thinks, his character being the complete sum of all his thoughts. As the plant springs from and could not be without the seed, so every act of man springs from the hidden seeds of thought and could not have appeared without those thoughts. Not too many people stop to think through the implications of our belief systems. Have you taken a recent look at Charles Darwin's famous book that started it all? You know the one, The Origin of Species. And are you aware of the full original title of Darwin's book? Maybe in our current politically correct culture, the complete title is too offensive to put right on the cover. But like it or not, here's the old title. On the Origin of Species by means of natural selection or the preservation of favored races in the struggle for life. What? Favored races? Yes, favored races. Darwin made certain that the essence of his theory was front and center. Let's break it down. First, we see that the book is about origins. Darwin is attempting to inform us where we came from. According to him, our existence is a purely accidental, naturalistic phenomenon. Then he moves into the process by which he believed we came into existence by means of natural selection. That simply means that the strong survive and the weak don't, also described by Darwin as the survival of the fittest. Every creature is in competition for survival with all others. It's natural, Darwin says, that those with stronger traits will conquer those with weaker traits. The survivors will then breed, thus preserving and strengthening the traits most suited for survival. Things get gradually better, he said, as the weak are slaughtered and the strong survive to propagate. So evolution is dependent on the elimination of the weak. In fact, to the degree that any of the weak survive, the evolutionary process will be hindered. In this sense, competition and conquest are good for the advancement of life. The highest law is self-preservation, and the brutal cycle of killing is merely an amoral, neither right nor wrong necessity. Which brings us to the final part of Darwin's title. It's a mouthful for a title, but get these words: the preservation of favored races in the struggle for life. The idea is so heavy that even those who believe the theory see the racist implications and cringe, and yet no explanation can alter what Darwin means when he speaks of favored races. Sure, Darwin used the term races to refer to all life forms, and some argue vegetable and animal life forms, but that does not lessen the racist implications because the human species was included in Darwin's theory. The theory of evolution unavoidably teaches that some human races are favored above others. It should come as no surprise then that Darwin's cousin and disciple, Sir Francis Galton, became the father of modern eugenics, which is the Greek word for well-born, taking Darwin's evolutionary theory to its logical conclusion. Or more highly evolved humans, he taught they were gifted. These highly evolved humans should treat the less favored among us with some kindness as long as they maintain celibacy. He went on to say, if these continue to procreate children inferior in moral, intellectual, and physical qualities, it is easy to believe the time will come when such persons would be considered as enemies of the state. I couldn't believe it when I read this. People considered enemies of the state because they are inferior. Galton's ideas turned out to be a dark prophecy that came true when Nazi eugenic scientists bought Darwin's favored races theory and they supervised Hitler's final solution. Millions who were regarded as less evolved than the Aryans were slaughtered with this survival of the fittest gusto, and the evolution-educated conscience seemed to have felt no guilt. Kill or be killed. And why feel guilty? Because after all, self-preservation is the highest law. And if the triumph of the strong over the weak is simply necessary for the advancement of mankind, well, may the best race win. And the pattern was mimicked in the Caribbean, in Australia, in America, right here in South Africa and other countries. Which begs the chilling question, if Darwin was right, then which ones are the favored races? Which one of us are more highly evolved? Which one of us is better than the rest of us? The Nazis thought that they were answering the question with their Aryan supremacy ideology and their gas chambers. In the past, white Afrikaners in South Africa thought it was them. This ultra-supremacist entitlement, pseudo-superior mindset is not limited to the color white. White is not superior to black. And in the same breath, we have to say that black is not superior to white. Each is different but equal. The preservation of favored races. Can you see it on the bestseller shelf? Those words are there, after all, in the original title. Like it or not, that is the point of Darwin's theory in all its debasing glory. But somehow, I don't think the favored races title would sell. I wonder how many really understand the implications of the logical conclusion of Darwin's theory of evolution. The question is, do we? This is how a Holocaust is started. Today, scientists confirm how the evolutionary theory of random genetic change contradicts what really happens in nature. We are all created in the image of God. So when I say that I am your brother from another mother, you better believe it. Personally, I reject the theory of evolution. I categorically reject Darwin's theory and by extension reject the favored races proposition. Racism is evil, it is wicked, it is a sin beside being a crime. I believe in the equality of all men and women. I believe that our inherent indivisible value is derived from the essence of who we are as individuals and not from what we do, the color of our skin, education, culture, religious persuasions, tribe or language. Again, let me say that I believe that each of us is created in the image of God. Equality, therefore, is not a privilege. It is a fundamental, divine, inherent right of every individual, regardless of our unique differences. Therefore, an injury to one is an injury to all, not all of the same color or ethnic background, but humanity in its entirety.